God's talking matches his timing. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group for part 2 of this 5-part series. Daniel, shut up the words. God was not telling Daniel to be quiet to tell Daniel to be quiet. He was telling him to take what he had and seal it. Now was not the time for what was given to Daniel to be given to everyone. That shows us purpose. The fact that God speaks something, he's trying to share himself, which he loves to do, but he recognizes we may not be ready for what he has said. In Daniel chapter 12, verse 4, this is where he says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end." That's important. At that point, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So again, we still see God's desire to share himself by showing himself, because he tells him to seal it, but until the time of the end. That's timing. His message, what he's talking about, it's relevant, it's good, but not yet. So he tells him to put it on the back burner. He doesn't tell him to take it off the stove. Hey everybody, if what you're hearing is a blessing, glory to God. Be sure to hit that like button. And of course, let's stay in touch. You can do that just by clicking subscribe to the channel. And not only is this study here, you can go to the website where there are videos, thousands of videos just like this, changeministry.org. And then finally, the only thing better than being screen to screen is face to face. We'd love to come to your church, your school, or group, even at our own expense if necessary. So to get that started, all you have to do is send us an email, and that email address is contact@changeministry.org. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1, a principle we can rest in when it comes to whether God's talking to Daniel or talking to us. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the sun. There's a purpose to everything. There is no accident in God's kingdom. There's no accident in design. That's what makes design design. There was thought, there was sequence, there was format, there's structure. That's why I'm glad I'm a creationist, because I recognize that everything that God has done has an order. Even when I don't understand the order is there. It may not be evident, but it is present. So even when it comes to what he says, there's an order, because he says there's a time to rend and a time to sow. And because of God's design, there is a time for silence and there's a time to speak, a time to keep silence, a time to speak. When it comes to the words or the prophecies that the Lord has revealed to his prophets, when he gives that prophecy to them, there are times when he tells them, go, run, pass this on right now. That's the time. But then there are other instances where God gives them a message. He gives them a word, even a prophecy, and he says, not yet. A real life example is, remember Joseph? God gave Joseph these dreams and these visions, and he shared them with his brothers and his family, and they didn't like it. They did not receive it well. They weren't ready for that word. Now that word came from God. He was showing them their future. But way down later in Egypt, when Joseph was prime minister and they were hungry, that's when they were ready to find out, eventually, that Joseph's dreams were a prophecy of God's promise to keep them, even in a time of famine. That was when they needed it, and that's when they understood it. Brothers and sisters, I'm so glad that there's a time to everything. And if God is waiting to show you something, know that there is just as much blessing in waiting on God as there is in moving on your own. So if waiting on God is a blessing, can you imagine what God is going to do when you go from waiting on God to watching him work?